Here we are, day six. Oh my God. I'm doing this, you guys. I'm doing this. So it's been really interesting for the past few days. A lot of aha moments that I've been sharing in terms of like my environment and how literally my creativity and ideas have just gone through the roof, which is amazing. So it's nice to know that when you are in the right environment, how much that shifts everything. And I think this is a universe being like, even though this is just a temporary place, you're staying for the weekend, here's what it feels like when you are in your right environment. And so I am definitely feeling this big time. Hi, Courtney, how are you? And so, yeah, my everything has like almost like kind of like blown up for me in terms of like my creativity, everything. And so I wanted to come on here and talk to you about human design and not self themes for each type and dive a little bit deeper into that and what that is like. The reason why I'm bringing this up just from the past 2 days in the lives that I did. So I did the dualities of like holding, coexisting between low and high emotions, the dark and the light. And then yesterday I spoke about lack mentality and abundance. So doing a lot of that yin and yang. And so I decided, okay, why not add human design to this? Because human design has the not self themes. And I do find that sometimes there are certain wording in human design may not necessarily what it actually translates or means, but there's certain wording that says, again, bypassing the not self themes, like how to avoid bitterness, how to avoid anger, how to avoid frustration, how to avoid disappointment. And again, we are not meant to avoid those. If we are avoiding them, we are bypassing them and we are not seeing what is being shown to us or what the lesson is. And so I am going to give examples for each type as to when those not self themes come up, what may be happening, but it is still up to you to reflect on yourself. So when you have a not self theme, it's legit a trigger. And what happens when we get triggered? Our senses just stop. Like we stop listening, we stop seeing, we're not really hearing what's being said, and we're not seeing the situation properly because we get triggered. So, and pay attention to this. Whenever you get triggered, whether it is one of your not self themes, if it's anger, frustration, bitterness, disappointment, if it's through like a text message, for example, like put it away, get back to it when you're feeling more, calmer, and reread that message and look at what it says. I've done this before and I'm like, oh shit, I misinterpreted that. I read that the wrong way because I only read one word or one sentence that caused a trigger reaction. And so that's what happens with triggers. And so sometimes it even happens where someone says something or there's a situation that we're in and that triggers us. And in that moment, we don't hear what the rest of the conversation's happening. We don't see the entire situation. We only focus on that tiny little thing that made us angry, frustrated us, caused bitterness, or full-blown disappointment. And so I want for you to have that in mind. And when these not self themes do come up, there's many things you can do. So sometimes you will react and lash back. You will react in your bitterness. You will react in your anger, your frustration, disappointment. That's okay. We're human beings. I'm not going to sit there and tell you like every time you need to like avoid reacting. You are going to react, and that's okay. It is what you do after the reacting and how you come to the situation afterwards. And then that's important. But if you can, taking that step back the moment you get triggered, taking that step back and just either reflecting as to why you're triggered, reflecting as to why these emotions are coming up. If you are in that cloud, like that cloud of like frustration, bitterness, anger, and disappointment, if you are in that cloud and you can't reflect, nothing's clear, you're just sitting there and you're seething, and it's just like your mind is going 20 miles an hour and it's going blah, 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 crazy, that's okay too. That's okay too. But find a safe space to let that out. So whether that is journaling, calling up a friend that you know you have that safe space that you can vent, or going out into nature and screaming, or whatever tools or ways you can release it, go for it. But then also sit with it. Sit with the emotion and recognize it and being like, I am feeling this. I am feeling this. And it's okay to feel this. It's okay to have these emotions. And now, what are these emotions telling me? What is being shown to me in this moment? What is the lesson? What had triggered me? And so I'm going to go through each type. So we got manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. And each type has not self-theme. If you are a manifesting generator, listen to both the manifestors and the generators, because you do have both aspects within you. So as a manifestor, your not self-theme is anger. And anger can come in your life in many, many ways. So when you feel anger, what is happening in that moment? So as manifestors, you don't like being told what to do, because you get basically ideas and insights and things to do directly from source. Like, you're the only type that can get ideas and downloads directly from source, and this is how you can initiate. You're the only type that can initiate. And so when there is someone who's trying to say like, but no, you need to do it this way and you need to do it that way, that is going to cause anger. So when that happens, how do you approach the situation? Do what feels right for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do what feels right for you. And set your boundaries on how you would like to approach a situation. But reflect on, why am I getting angry? And why is it angering me that this person is telling me, or this situation is telling me what to do? And how can I pivot and shift that? And how can I work with that in the future? What is the lesson here, and what am I being taught? And so that is one way that a manifestor will get angry. Another way is manifestors, your whole strategy is to inform, is to give a heads up, is to communicate. And this is not just in business. This is like business, life, every aspect. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed on something, if you're feeling overwhelmed on a task, or if there's like a lot on your plate because you don't have the energy like a mani-gen or a generator, and then instead of informing and letting people know that, hey, this is what's happening, getting help, getting assistance, like people to help you and take things off your plate, then you basically get overwhelmed, and then you get angry. Something triggers you and you get angry because you're overwhelmed and you haven't informed the people around you. And sometimes informing can be like, if you're going into a hermit mode, for example, if you're a manifestor who loves to hermit, you need to inform those around you that you are hermiting, or else they're going to send you a message and be like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? And you're just like, no, leave me alone. I'm in my hermit. And so where are these moments, and what is angering you? Are you tired? You don't have the same energy level as a manifesting generator or a generator. You don't have that sacral gut response. Your energy is bursts. So you come in bursts, And then you need downtime, you need rest, and every manifestor's energy is different. So monitor that. And when you find yourself that, okay, I need a nap, I need to relax, my body's feeling it, listen to that. Listen to your body, because again, if you are exhausted and someone says something, you get triggered, you don't really hear what they were saying. Maybe they're just trying to help you or something, who knows? But because you're exhausted, you hear partially. Like I said, when we get triggered, we don't hear everything. We don't see the whole situation. And so what is happening there? And then the last thing with manifestors I'm going to bring up is being disrupted. So manifestors, when you are in your groove, in the moment of creativity, where you are doing a task, a project, whatever you are doing, you're in the zone. You're in the zone. And in those moments, if someone disrupts you, can cause you to get angry. And the example I like to use is kind of like, it's like I like using children sometimes as examples, because like they are just so in their element, especially in human design. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, Courtney. I'll definitely send you the replay. Thank you. And so what was I saying? Lost track of my thought. Okay, so as a child, if you have a manifestor child, for example, and they are sitting there and they're drawing. They're in their own zone and they're coloring, they're drawing, and then basically what happens is mom is like, okay, it's time to go to bed, and they throw a fit, like a legit angry fit. That is disrupting them in their flow. That is disrupting the creativity. That is disrupting what is happening. And so the same thing applies. Form. That is your strategy. And so that is basically what I want to say about manifestors. And so now we're going to go about generators. So generators, your not self theme is frustration. So generators. Just I have my notes here, so I'm going to make sure I get everything. Okay, so that come up for you in many, many different ways. And so when you get frustrated, again, notice what is happening. And so as generators, even though you do have the energy to work a lot, you are not meant to work 24/7. You are meant to play. You are meant to have fun. And everything you do in terms of work is supposed to be things that light you up. And so if you are a generator and if you run your own business and you have certain tasks that you do that don't light you up, maybe it can be making reels or writing emails or having a mailing list, and doing those tasks frustrate you. So how can you pivot away from those tasks? How can you either delegate? If you cannot delegate or outsource, are those tasks really that important for your business? And how can you pivot and make them fun? And so that is like one way to look at it. If you are a generator who works in an office job or in the service industry, what tasks are you doing at work that don't light you up? And is there a way to focus on the tasks that do light you up, and maybe speaking to your supervisor or manager and seeing how you can make that work. Because when you are doing something that doesn't light you up, you get frustrated and you don't complete it as in a timely manner as you would like to, and it takes longer, and there's like where the forcing comes in. So you're forcing something, you're forcing it to get it done, and it's just not happening. The flow isn't happening. And so take a moment and look at that. Look at when you are getting frustrated. And is it because you are doing tasks that you don't like to do? And another thing with generators is that what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. When you say yes to things, but your sacral says no. Or when... say yes, but sacral says no. What else? I lost my train of thought. Okay, somebody messaged me and then it just completely lost my train of thought. Okay, sorry. Okay, so when you say yes to things, but your sacral is a no, or when you say yes to everything, so the people pleasing, and then you're doing a bunch of things that don't light you up because you feel bad because you've said yes to it, and then that can cause frustration. Another thing that can cause frustration with generators is you like doing things like in a kind of like a step-by-step, a very linear approach, and taking your time doing it. And so when someone is rushing you, or when you feel rushed, or maybe when you're rushing yourself, that is when frustration can also seep in. So pay attention to those moments and how you can take a step back and be like, why am I rushing myself? Or why is this person rushing me? Is there something I need to communicate here? Is there something that I need to slow myself down? And then maybe also the other thing is, yesterday I mentioned in my lack and abundance video of that work hard, play hard. So is that something that is in your mentality? Do you believe that you need to work hard in order to get the abundance, in order to be successful, in order to make the money? Even though you have the energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are meant to work 24/7. So look at that and look at if there is any frustration happening there, and are you forcing yourself to work hard because you're like, shit, I need to make this much money, or I need to pay my bills, or whatever current evidence that is happening in your life that is causing you to be in lack. And so for generators, really take note of that. And so now I'm going to go for the manifesting generator. So manifesting generators, you are a combination of a manifestor and a generator. So a lot of the things that I mentioned earlier, such as in terms of generators having fun, that is just as important for you as well. It is important for you to have fun and to do tasks that you love to do, where you feel both not-self themes of anger and frustration. Depending on your chart, you may be more generator or more manifestor. So you can actually just self-reflect on that. Which one is yours? Which one are you mostly? So do you find yourself getting more angry more often, or frustrated? Or is it both? Because sometimes it can be a melange of both. Each chart is completely different. And so as a mani-gen, you like having your hands in multiple pots. But then what might sometimes happen, which is great, but what happens is you get really overwhelmed. And then that's when the frustration and the anger seeps in. So be mindful of your calendar, be mindful of your time, be mindful of how much you take on your plate. And if you've taken too much and that anger and frustration seeps in, take a step back. What can you remove off your plate? What can you put aside? Those little things. In terms of another thing with mani gens is that you guys tend to skip a bunch of steps to finish something. And that's your life is not linear, and that's okay. But sometimes you need to go back and repeat it. So is going back and repeating it something that frustrates you or angers you? If so, reflect on that and tell yourself, no, this is I am meant to do things in a non-linear way, and rewire that limiting belief, that mindset that this is okay and it is part of your design. Another thing for many gens is when you cannot feel your sacral. When you're trying to make a decision and your sacral is silent and you're just like, I don't know whether to do this. I don't know if it's a yes or a no. I can't feel jack shit. This is frustrating. And take those moments to breathe. Take those moments to breathe, and maybe find yourself someone else that can sit there and ask you yes or no questions. Like, I know that when my sister, she can't feel her sacral, I start asking her yes or no questions just to kind of like bring that muscle to life. And I don't let her think about it. I just ask, do you like pizza? Do you like hot dogs? Do you like a hot tub? Do you like massages? And then I'll throw in the question that she is struggling to listen to her sacral right in the middle of it. And then she's like, oh, boom, there's the answer. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just need to trust yourself, and the answer will come when it's meant to come. Okay, so now I'm going to go to projectors. So projectors and your not self theme is bitterness. And so projectors, we can get bitter for many things. One of the main things is not feeling seen, not feeling heard. And this can cause a lot of bitterness. And I know this causes bitterness sometimes with me as well. And it's, if sometimes I go on a live or I write this amazing post and nobody reads it or nobody watches the video, and I'm like, but it was so good. Bitterness comes through in many ways. And that is one of them. Or when you're not feeling seen, not feeling heard. I know sometimes for myself, if I'm in a group of people and I feel that I cannot get a word in and everybody's just talking over on top of each other. And I'm just like, but I have something to say. And then sometimes I'll blurt it out because I want to say it, even though there's no invitation, but nobody's listening. Or because people are not used to being around projectors, they sometimes don't invite the projector to be like, well, what do you have to say? Do you have anything to say in this? So all these situations can cause bitterness big time. And so this is navigating around it. So what is important for projectors? Being in the right environment. Being in the right environment, surrounded by the right people, being in the right living situation is very important for projectors. For them to feel seen, heard, and also be recognized and be invited in. Another times where there could be bitterness with projectors is when you're waiting for the invitation and it's taking forever to come. You're like, universe, I put this out there. I'm waiting for the invitation. Okay, now where is it? It's been 6 months and it's still not here. And so that can cause a little bit of bitterness. But trust in divine timing. Trust that the universe is going to bring you what is meant to bring to you at the most divine timing. And so just trust that. Another time where projectors may get bitter is that when you are invited in to give advice or give insight, guidance. So people or situations like, okay, I want to hear what you have to say. And you're like, okay, so you get all excited and you're like, okay, this is this and this and this is what you should do. And I think it would be like amazing if you do it this way and blah, blah. And that problem you have, this is how you can solve it. And the person's like, okay, cool. Thank you so much. That was so insightful. And then they don't do it. Then they don't do it. So this is where releasing that. This is where you can give your 2 cents and let it go. to take it or leave it. Because yes, as projectors, we can see things that the other types cannot. Yes, we can see things from a different situation. And we know that we are right. We are fucking right. And we know that our advice is bang on. But everybody has a choice, and it is still up to the other person or the situation of whether they choose to do what you tell them to do or not. And so we can't control things, and this is where we have to surrender and let go. Another thing that can cause bitterness for projectors is when people are telling them what to do. So people, like, if you are a projector, people are telling you what to do, but it is a task or an advice that is mainly for mani-gens and generators or manifestors. And you're like, nope, that does not work for me. I have to wait for the invitation. I can't just go into people's DMs and cold call them and be like, hey, do you want my product? Can't do that. I need to wait for the invitation. And that causes bitterness because you're like, they don't get me. You don't understand me. And so, another thing about projectors, and the last thing I'm going to say, there's many things that obviously I could talk more about because I am a projector. But the other thing I'm going to say is overworking. So projectors, we are only meant to work 4 hours a day, like really not much. And so we can get bitter when we are tired. And if we haven't had our nap or if we haven't had our downtime, we get bitter. And so pay attention to that. And then, when we are bitter, when we are overworked, then anything triggers us. Then one person says something again, like, all the other types, same thing. When you are, as a manifester, when you're overworked, depleted, and you are overwhelmed as a generator, when you are not having fun, when you're doing tasks that don't light you up, as a mani-gen, a same thing between the two of them, like feeling overwhelmed because you've taken on too many tasks, and then you're feeling this frustration and anger. And when you're a projector, if you're not getting enough sleep or if you're not feeling heard or seen, then this is where our not self themes come in, and anything that anybody says, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They say that one thing that triggers us, and then we react. Like, how dare they, blah, 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 I didn't get them what they meant, and this is frustrating, and da-da-da, and we just go off. And then you got the reflectors. And the reflectors is disappointment. So reflectors, when you are feeling disappointed, chances are you are in the wrong environment. So reflectors, because you have all open undefined centers, you are taking in a lot of the energy from the outside world in. And so it is important to be in the right environment. It is important to be surrounded by the right people. So when you're feeling disappointed, look at, where are you living geographically? Where are you living geographically? Where, who are you surrounded by? And is that what is causing your disappointment? Another thing that can cause disappointment with reflectors is that feeling rushed to make a decision. So reflectors, you are meant to take 28 days to make a decision because you go through the transits. You go through the daily transits, and some days it's a yes, some days it's a no. And you are meant to take your time, and you know that intuitively. Like, sometimes I don't even need to tell you that. You already know that. And so when you are feeling rushed from the outside world to make a decision, or when you rush yourself to make a decision, then the outcome of that decision can cause disappointment. And so here's where you can pivot. Here's where you can shift that. Take another 28 days to reflect on what the disappointment was and what could be your next choice, because you always have a choice. But taking the time to sit through that disappointment through the 28 days, well, it doesn't mean you need to be disappointed all 28 days, but you know what I mean? It's like, reflect on that, reflect through that process. And so again, if you are a reflector and you felt rushed to make a decision and the outcome caused disappointment. And then, so you're already disappointed because of that. And then someone says something and you're like, okay. And then you get triggered. What else? Also with reflectors, rest is important. So manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, rest is important. It is different for each one of those types, but it is just as important. So it is important for all of those types, including reflectors, to listen to your body. And when your body is telling you to rest, whether it's lying down or taking a nap, it is extremely important. And so when you don't get the enough rest, then that can cause also disappointment. And so these are like little things to pay attention to. And also reflectors, the other thing is finding yourself a safe space to talk your decisions out loud. And so finding people that you feel comfortable. Again, your environment, your people, your community is important. It has to feel right. And if it doesn't feel right, you will feel disappointment. And so finding that safe space, that friend or the partner that you can talk your decisions out loud and you can basically soundboard and just